Yeah,
What's up, everybody? This is Indie Game Business. I'm Indy, and that's Jay way over there, and that's Lauren Carter with her new little poopies. What's your poopie's name?
Mabel.
Mabel the dog.
I feel like there's a delay.
There is a delay. Yeah, you do not be watching the stream.
Don't try to watch the stream and figure out what we're doing because it will get confusing.
Yeah, then you'll be all strange. So just listen to our voice here.
I can't see you, Indy. I can't.
You can if you're watching the stream.
Yeah.
But you told me not to watch the stream.
That's
because I don't want you to watch me. Is why I don't. No, it's fine. No, you can watch the stream. Just watch the stream, but you can mute it.
It's muted.
Okay. Hi, Lauren. Here, I'm waving
Hi.
now. All right, and I'm getting
do the creepy voice. Hi there.
Okay.
Getting our raffle set up. So hey,
I had to get that out of the way. Yes.
This is Lauren Carter. She is the founder and designer of, and you're gonna have to pronounce this for me. Is it Narratio?
Narratio. Just think Narratio with an N.
Is that how you came up with the name? I mean,
yes. There we go. All right.
No, someone said it to me like, I don't know, like 2 years after I founded the company, and I was like, shit, never thought of that.
You're like, perfect.
But I've accepted it now. Narratio, yeah.
The first company I had, the URL was fine and it was awesome and it fit, and then a buddy of mine pointed out, like, 6 weeks later or 6 months later, that the URL, when looked at in the bar, spelled something completely and utterly different as well as the name of our company. And I'm like, well,
it's like therapist.com, which is terrible. Therapist.com is terrible. It's terrible.
What is that from?
Therapist.com.
Oh, I'm still waking up.
Experts-exchange.com before they removed the dash. Yep. That's
okay. Now I get it. So, Lauren, you have we always like talking to people who have unique routes to our industry because there's not really a formal way to get here where we all get here. So tell us a little bit about, where you came from and how you got to the game industry and all of that kind of fun stuff, in the mix.
Okay. Well, I guess when I was younger, or maybe not so young, at university, and I wanted to do something creative. So I wanted to go into film or TV or something like that because I thought that would be something that I could do without any specific training and just using the inherent skills that I have, which is, as I said, not remembering the names of things and generally being a bit of a dick. But I ended up doing an English degree.
Yes! I did too.
Yay!
Props to the English degrees that are worth nothing, but okay, yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's worth nothing, but I don't know whether it's... I mean, who can say? It is what it is. But yeah, so I did that, and then I ended up getting a Rhodes Scholarship to Canada, and I really wanted to study something important and worthwhile, like Shakespeare or something. But no universities would have me with my scholarship, which was bizarre. So I ended up going to Vancouver and studying this creative writing course, which I thought would be really fun, and a complete change from what I'd experienced at Oxford, which was just pain, endless pain and misery. So yeah, I went to Vancouver to this writing school, the Vancouver Film School, and did this writing course. And they had this module which was writing for games. And I'd never even really thought about writing for games. Like, I didn't even realize that games had writers. And so we did this course, and everyone had to come up with a video game that they'd like to make. And I came up with one which was based around Terry Pratchett. And I don't know if you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, my class in Canada did not know. So we all had to give this presentation. So I stood up and did this whole thing about Terry Pratchett and the Discworld and like kind of branching narratives and how you would be in Ankh-Morpork and you'd have to learn skills and you could either join the different guilds and you could explore the world or whatever. And everyone was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who is this what? And it really didn't go down very well. And there were other people that were obviously like gamers for like their whole lives and had loads of insight into what other games were available, and they did all these whole big open world sandbox games and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to make it in games. But I really liked the idea of it, and it was really annoying that that was like the one semester that I didn't do really well in, because it just didn't just didn't resonate with the audience in Vancouver, which was a shame. After that, it just kind of always really bothered me that it was like there were these people writing these games, and it was like it was more than just writing dialogue like for a screenplay or a TV show, because you have to, it's like a dynamic version of that where different interactions may change what people say, and I've always found that really interesting. But I kind of left it at that, and I moved back to London. Is this all right? Do I have to keep? Are you going to stop and ask me more questions?
No, you were just going to let you talk and talk and talk.
All right, so actually, I do have a question. I find it just gigantically ironic that you wanted to go, that you ended up going to Canada with the intent of studying Shakespeare, which is, back where you came from in the UK.
Well, I mean, the idea of the Rhodes Scholarship is to allow people to study abroad in America.
I never got to that level, so I was unaware that that's what the Rhodes Scholarship was for.
But I mean, I suppose I could have just done a PhD in Oxford or somewhere else in the UK, but I just wanted to travel and be abroad. I just wanted to live in a different place, because I just think that's important as part of
I agree.
Your life, just to live somewhere that's not where you're from. So. And I was just applying to loads of scholarships to go anywhere to do anything. Like, I'm pretty sure I applied to one in this Caribbean island where you can become a vet, because I was like, fuck it, I'll just apply for things.
Yes.
But obviously I had zero of the necessary trainings for that. Anyway.
Well, I just want to, sorry, I got to break in real quick. We got a raid from Rock Knight Studios. Thank you guys so much for the raid.
Thanks, everybody.
Rock Knight Studios. Awesome.
I don't know what that means.
I know. Just kick back and just take it.
You've woken up Mabel, and she's confused now.
What a raid is when another channel is ending their stream, and so they will be like, hey, let's bring all of our community over to this other channel. So they come over and bring us over. So it's an awesome thing. Yeah, it's an awesome thing. So thank you so much for the raid. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for the raid.
You're here to take all the It is aggressive.
So that course, my course finished, and I had to move back to England, and I was trying to get a job like in production and things like that, where I could maybe do some more writing and meet different people. And I ended up, someone is upstairs, and Mabel is alarmed, clearly, at this situation. Mabel,
defend the house, Mabel.
Come back, little sausage. Anyway, so I met this guy called Ryan, and he had put an advertisement out for a production assistant to help him with his company, and I applied for that job, and I'd been sent an email by his PA, who I later realised was his wife, and she had obviously copied and pasted his signature, so she'd put the wrong address, so she'd missed out the first digit of the address of where I had to meet him. So it was like my first proper interview, and I bought like a dress, and I was trying to be all professional and stuff. And so I turned up, and it was pissing down with rain, which is a British word that means it was fucking raining hard. And so I was absolutely soaked, and I looked a complete mess. I had makeup all over my face. I was wearing this dress that did not translate well into wetness. And I finally found the building, and I just remember his face being like, what is this person? This like drowned kind of rat-like thing turned up. But bizarrely, it actually went really well. And at the time, it was just a tiny company. It was just him. So I was the first employee. And over time, that business grew, and we ended up moving from a crappy place in London to a really cool place in London if you're not from London. And the business did really, really well. And after a while, we had quite a lot of money, or the company had money over time, and we kind of, he'd had this idea for a game, and I've always had this kind of idea of doing a game. So we thought, why don't we start another company? We've done one company well, we could probably start another one. Why don't we start another company? And that's how Narratio was founded.
That's awesome.
So does that answer your question?
Big time.
Big time. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Cool.
You're doing fantastic. So I mean, and that you had the luxury of being able to not have to worry about day-to-day cash flow, because
Oh no, I did. That was a worry.
I,
Wait, what was your question though? Hang on.
no. I'm just talking about the fact that it is. I mean, when new companies are putting out their first game, it is a very stressful time, and so luckily you had the experience of doing a startup, before, or at least coming up through the ranks of a very young company, which is how I got started as well. But
Yeah.
you do. I mean, you obviously there's no game out, so there's no revenue coming in, but you had done it to a somewhat of an extent before, with the other company, so it wasn't completely all brand new. But
Yeah, I think I have
don't worry about it. Keep going.
Entrepreneurial experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I'm just going to assume that the first game was Powerless, which is what we're talking about today, right?
I mean, yes. The funny thing about Powerless is that there's actually 3 versions of Powerless. So when you talk about the first version, when we first started this company, we obviously had an office which was the house of our other company, and we had an amount of money which we both put in to sort of spend on this thing, and we kind of treated it like we would a TV commercial. It's like, here's an amount of money, here's the people we need to do the job, here are some people that are good at it, we'll write a schedule, we'll tell them what to do, and then at the end we'll have made a game. Like, that's how it works, right? God, no. So we started doing that, and we hired a developer, so this guy out of university called Grant, and I found some students, from friends of friends, who were really cool artists who were really interested in doing graphic novels, which was kind of the style we were going for. And me and Ryan were like, we'll just do the writing because that's kind of what we're both good at. We'll just write and write and write. And if we write the stuff, he builds the stuff, they draw the stuff, like together equals game. So we foolishly did that for about 9 months and spent pretty much all of the money that we'd put in the game. And at the end of that, the game sucked.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. Like, it was definitely cool. And I think if I had loads of money, when I have loads of money, if we could make the game in that version again, it would be really cool, because basically the game was too big. It had, like, if you imagine the tube map in London, that was kind of the main interface of the game. So you'd move through this map, you could arrive at a different station, and you could arrive there at any point during this Powerless disaster. So you could arrive there on day 1, or you could arrive there on day 100. So to make that work dynamically, the artwork would have to sort of digress, get shitter over time to show the world falling apart, and the writing would have to change, because like things that happen on day 1 are not the same as the things that would happen on day 20. But that's a huge amount of work to do for 2 people in an interactive fiction which has already got lots of branching narratives. We'd have to do like 100 times 100 for all the different stations in London.
And that is one of the, obviously if you're making Fallout or something along those lines, it's much easier to, I'll say it's much easier because it's a gigantic friggin' game, but there are ways that you can handle the fact that I stay in my little town for, the first month of this game, and then I'll go out and look for stuff. But, when you're doing a narrative game, you're right. I mean, you've got a lot more holding you in place. There's more rules to follow, or you're just going to completely foobar the entire, storyline. So,
well, yeah, it's so unpredictable what someone might have read, and not only what they've read, but what they've remembered. So if you're trying to explain to them how a catastrophic solar flare has occurred, whilst also explaining to them the gameplay, and then trying to get them to remember, oh, on day 1 they found this special shoe, you're like, it's impossible. So we'd done it, and we had got to the point where we were having conversations with Apple, and they were happy with it, but none of us were really happy with the narrative. And we were like, so I had written some, Ryan had written some, this intern that we had called James had written some. And by the way, a lot of the stuff that me and Ryan wrote, we would get to the office at about 5 a.m, write for like 3 hours, and then start our day job in the other company, which was sort of funding this. And then afterwards we would write more. But we'd read them back, and sometimes we would just like piss ourselves laughing, like, what on earth have we written about? Like, we had this list of cues for each station, so like what were the kind of issues and challenges that a player might face in the different stations, and some of them we'd written when we were drunk. So there was one which is always my favorite. I remember one morning kind of looking over to Ryan and saying, oh, I don't know what to write for this story. I think it was Pimlico or Baker Street, and he looked at the list and he was like, I don't know, like, it says here, adventures with the mole people, just go with it. So I remember trying to write this like story about mole people, and there was one about people who were worshipping toasters, and it was crazy. It was a really crazy game. And maybe I feel like if someone ever made a film of this journey, which they never will, and they could do like a sliding doors thing, and they could see where that game would have gone if we'd finished it, I think it would end up being like a really niche cult classic with like 7 mega fans who just thought that it was absolutely mental and loved it, and then everyone else would probably think it was shit. So yes, we got to that point, and we'd run out of money basically, or we didn't really have enough money to fully fix the game, nor did we really know how. The developer we were working with got a job at a better company, and so he left. He was like, I've done everything I could do, like, you guys have chosen not to release it, so I'm out. We had a pretty bad experience with one of the artists who effectively stole loads of money from us, so that was pretty sad. They left, so we were left just with me and Ryan, and we were kind of at a loss of what to do because we couldn't fix the game. There was so much writing. There was like over a million words, and it just seemed an impossible amount of narrative to fix, and it wasn't even enough narrative to complete the game as we wanted it. So we basically left it for about a year, and we just kind of sat on it, and just sort of every now and again we'd text each other and be like, so do you think we should try and finish the game? And it was like, oh, we're too busy with other stuff, we need to grow, like, the business is actually earning money, we need to focus on that and not the one that's not got any money. And then so after a year I decided that I didn't want to work more in this game thing. Was just really getting at me, and I really wanted to finish it, and I'm not a quitter. I like to finish things. So I quit that job, and we decided to put a last little bit of money into the pot and see if I could finish it by myself. I think the initial schedule was about 9 months, because I remember thinking it was like trying to make a baby without any of the
without any of the fun parts that go along with it.
So I quit the job, and I tried to figure out how to make a game the right way, rather than, I guess, the way that we had done it, which was not wrong, but was perhaps misguided and not very efficient. So is it the right amount of talking? Do I need to...
No, keep going. Yes. This is interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't see your face, so like I don't know if you're
yawning or good. We're just watching you.
No.
Yeah, no, this is super interesting.
Everyone who watches us on a regular basis knows that there's really no structure to this show. It rambles and it diverges, and it's all about having these conversations. I mean, and talking about this stuff, because other people and other indies out there, and even developers that aren't indies, they need to know that they're not the only ones going through this shit. I mean, this is not an uncommon occurrence. This is, having coders up and leave in the middle of a project happens all the time. Having, people steal money from you when you're trying to put together a game, it happens a lot. And so, no, just absolutely keep going. You're
okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and if you want to see a not so success story, you can check out my game on Google Play. It's called Pyroclasm. That is not
I didn't know you had a game.
Yeah, you should Google it. It's on Google Play. It's called Pyroclasm. That is like everybody.
Pyroclasm.
Yeah.
How do I spell it?
Pyroclysm.
Is it about fire or pirate?
It's kind of like it's a missile command. It's pirates. It's kind of like a missile command asteroids game, where asteroids come down and you have turrets and you shoot them.
Interesting.
And that was like a year of my life that was horrible. I mean, I could go into details about 3 different programmers, and they all wanted to write the game from scratch. And
And next week on the show, we're going to have Indy talking about his game.
Well, that was a shit show, is what it was. It was fucking shit show, if anything.
It is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So the second time round, it was just me, and I was like, I'm gonna learn stuff. I'm gonna figure shit out. I'm gonna watch people's talks from GDC, and I'm gonna research all this stuff, and I'm gonna learn about UX because apparently that's the stuff that you need to know. And one thing I wanted to do was to write a game design document, because I read on all these forums that that's what you need to do to make a successful game. You have to have this Bible, and we'd done something similar in my film degree, which was when you write a TV show, you write a Bible, which is like where are all the characters from, what are their locations, what's all the backstory, all that stuff. So I spent the first month of this 9-month period writing that thing, and ended up being this 80-page tome with loads of references and diagrams and stories and level mappings, and tried to do it all very, very properly, like how I thought a game designer would do it. And then I wrote every level. So I decided to make the game more simple this time. So rather than having a really complicated map where it was very open world, I decided to streamline it so players would go through more of a clear linear path. So I don't know if you've played the game Two Dots. I feel like you guys don't like mobile games because of your scoffing words earlier, but
no, we weren't making fun of mobile games. Trust me, but you are.
I play mobile games all the time.
Have you played Two Dots?
I have not.
Oh, it's really good.
Is Lauren the first guest we've had that's done a mobile game? I mean, not a port, but like a straight up mobile game. I think she is.
Yay!
No, yeah, but you know what? I've been streaming a mobile game for like the past year and a half, so I love mobile games. I think mobile games are amazing. He just asked me how was the Goosebumps game, and I was like, well, it's a mobile game. It's just something that you want to be playing on PC. That's all. That's what I meant. I wasn't scoffing mobile games because I love mobile games. Now to clear that out, just to clear that out.
Two Dots is a game that has one of the best maps in a mobile game that I think I've ever seen. And you essentially scroll up this map, and the world around the map changes. So you start on level 1 and you go up in sequential order, and it goes from it's all very abstract, doesn't make any sense, but you go from the weird cowboy place to the moon place to the desert place to the science place. And I wanted something like that, where as you scrolled through this map, the world would get darker and scarier and more dilapidated, and the city would sort of fall apart. So it was a more linear path through this world rather than a completely free roaming one. So that was the way I was going to try and control the player's experience, was to narrow this route. And it would require some artwork, but less intensive artwork than we were trying to do before, which was a million pieces of artwork very quickly. And I wanted to change the main character to make him, to make the reason why he wanted to help people in this game more clear. And I wanted to do loads of different stuff. So I wrote all these things. I figured out every single level and what the stories would be, and what the whole game was going to be based around an XP score that would a morality score based on the choices you made. And yeah, it was going to be a very simple, clear experience. So I started doing that. Was starting to write it. I think I was writing about 10,000 words a day, which was an insane amount of words. And I was very desperately trying to stick to this very strict schedule. So I know bigger studios often talk about crunch as a negative thing. Have you heard?
Well, it is if you're, not, if the revenue is not coming to you, crunch is different if it's
yours. Like
me, yeah. It's like if you're working on a game and all of the revenue is coming to you and the other folks that are, shared equally. Crunch is one thing. You can. There's a very fine line between crunch and passion at that point. Crunch gets a bad taste when it's like people who are salaried, who aren't sharing in any of the wealth of the game when it launches, are, having to work basically for free. That's where crunch gets the bad name.
Yeah, but I think it's unhealthy for any human being.
It is, without a doubt.
It is a startup thing, but it was certainly not good for me. Well, I don't know. I think that's just the way I am. Actually, I don't think I could ever uncrunch. I don't even know what's the opposite of crunch?
Stretch.
Smush.
No, smush and crunch is the same thing.
Smush.
You're still squishing something.
Oh.
Like if you're eating something and then you crunch it, if you're not crunching it, it's milking it.
The look on your
Slowly.
face is priceless. All right, here we go. Let's bring in some controversy. Oh my
Slowly
gosh.
dissolving it? I don't know.
Slowly dissolving it. Yeah. Maker Marker says, I believe mobile games should and will die.
Wow.
They should be VR and hands-on skill. Mobile games are the epitome of disconnected gaming. There's no VoIP, just addictive dopamine hits with little actual value. Poof.
Ooh, wow. That's a strong belief.
So I
Has this person played Powerless? Can we ask them?
Oh. Yeah, you can ask him. Ask
How
him.
do I do that?
Say,
have you played
it?
You actually just did.
Oh, have you played Powerless? What's the person's name? Maker Marker?
Microtransactions are everywhere, is what he says.
There are no microtransactions in Powerless.
There are
Powerless
no-
is not a free-to-play game. It's a
No.
premium game.
And there's definitely no dopamine in it. If anything, it's a depressing game that makes you feel bad.
So what's the opposite? Great, let's play it. Woo, let's party.
But if you're a person who enjoys getting depressed and feeling bad, then there is dopamine. There is a dopamine kick in.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Have you
No,
ever
I mean,
played this? Have you ever played This War of Mine? That's a very depressing.
That
I
is a
love
very
that
good
game.
game.
I love to play that game as evil. Like I kill the priest and kill the families. And
You know, that is so shocking.
did I
It's
do
not.
that? It's not
Yeah.
shocking. It's fun. It's fun to be the bad guy. It's fun to be the bad guy in a game.
That one's on
sometimes.
my list of things to do. It's I have not got around. I think I own it on like 2 platforms, but I haven't got around to playing it yet.
My boyfriend is sending me screenshots of this conversation every time I make a really stupid face.
Tell them to send those to us so we can use them as the promo, thing for the game. I mean, for the show. So, I mean, you have, whether you realize it at the time or not, gone through a lot of the same shit that
Yeah.
most indie developers have to go through. So here's a question: when you were going from the first game that ended badly to to this one, which is shipped and is out there for everyone to enjoy,
Well,
based on your experience with say your coder who left and your artist who stole money and left, what did you change? What changes in the path of the game or in the company did you make because of those experiences?
well, so to clarify, the second version that I was talking about is not the version that shipped. So that version also failed.
All right, so failed at a what we'll call not pre-production, but failed at a stage before you launched it, or you launched it and
Yes.
nobody bought it.
No. Well, I think that would have been better. I think I would rather have said, "Oh, I've made 3 games, 2 were shit. My third one, I figured it out." But instead, the first 2 versions failed. So I think probably the hardest part of the entire process was after I failed the first version. I had a year to get over that failure, and then we decided to try again. When I failed the second version, it was like this was like our last ditch attempt to finish it, and I'd already eaten up 90% of that time. So I think I started in July, and the plan was to launch in January. And by December, me and Ryan decided that all the stuff I'd written, all the plans I'd made, all the work that I'd done wasn't going to work. And that's when shit got really hard, because before that I'd had we had put an amount of money together so I could at least live whilst doing this development. And then that version failed, or he was like, it's not going to work, we need to do something better. So that was the hardest part between January and August this year when I launched, because the money had run out, there wasn't any money left, so I had to try and find more money to make it work. I had to start completely from scratch. I had to learn to use Unity, which I'd never done before. I had to learn to use different coding languages to make it in a way that was faster. And the whole game completely changed. I've got a video actually. I don't know. How do I send you a video? Can I play a video? Can I show you a video?
Is it on the? You have it on the internet, or is it just on your computer?
It's on the internet. It's on a VHS actually. I'll just chip it over.
If it's on the net, then you can send Andy the link, and he can absolutely do it.
Okay. Do I want to go on my Twitch computer or my Discord one?
It doesn't matter. Either way, just
Okay.
send it to him, and he can.
Yeah,
do it.
just type it. I think you should be able to type it in Twitch. Just type it into Twitch, and then
Okay.
that way
Okay,
everyone can also watch it, and then I can bring it up, and then everyone can.
Amazing. Okay, right. So I made a video in my spare time, which shows the design progression of the game. So from version 1 to version 3, so you can see like how much it completely changed.
Okay. And Oliver's asking, why not Android?
Because I don't know how to do it on Android. Not technically, but financially and from a business point of view. So everyone told me, or I've been told that the piracy rates on Android are like 95%. So even if in some miracle world, a million people download the game, only 5% will have actually paid for it. Other people have just ripped it. Which, as an indie business, that would be really upsetting if loads of people liked the game and were playing it, but no one was actually contributing to future games.
You know what some companies do? What some companies do is they will make a version of their game that has a bug in it that once you get to a certain spot, it just like totally glitches out, or it says, "Haha, you stole my game," and then they like put that out there for the public to download as they release their game. They put it on the pirating sites.
That's quite fun.
Then a lot of people, the developers, will get messages saying, "Hey, your game breaks right here," and you're like, "Yeah, that's because you pirated it, fucker." Okay, here we go.
So I mean,
well, okay, so there's that.
That's not in the statistic you heard is accurate, but there's another side to it in the fact that, and someone had just posted this on Reddit the other day, and I was trying to find it because they had an answer that was pretty. Oh, here it is. There's a guy says, I launched my game 10 hours ago and it's already pirated. Piracy in the industry is something that you can't do a lot about, frankly. One of the top posters says there's no point in thinking about it. Billion-dollar publishing empires with more lawyers than they know what to do with haven't been able to put a dent in piracy. You pretty much just have to accept that if your game is worth caring about at all, it's going to get pirated. And that's the reality of it. It's, yes, a vast majority of Android games are pirated, but, you'll also have those people that, see it and they want to play it. Piracy in a really twisted sense of the word is marketing to an extent, because you do have people that will play a pirated version and then actually feel bad and download the real version. They're not all out there, but the bottom line is that there's just very little you can do about it.
That's good, Tolerant. Hey, let's play this video. How about that? Yeah. 60 seconds.
There's usually music.
There's music. You could only hear it if it's coming through Twitch.
Got it. Okay, so this is version 1 where there was this complicated map and there was animations and you could trade and you could build a thing. This was trying to be version 2 here, which I didn't have much screenshots on because it was so depressing. And then I made it into this more like techie thing with Maud, and that's when Maud kind of arrived. And this is kind of different design iterations of the 3rd version where it became much more text-based and simple because I didn't have a team to work with.
So tell everybody who Maud is. I know who Maud is because I've played the game. But
Maud is the AI in the game that talks you through what to do and analyzes what you've done. So you'll see in some of these screenshots, you'll see a kind of a chat-based layout like that one there. And Maud stands for Mobile Assessment Unit of Disastrous Events or Doomsday Events. And she's kind of a bit of a bitch.
When Intel did that,
analyzes what you do and makes you think twice about it. And provides you with different paths into different narratives. So she might ask you a question about whether you think. So someone's just texting me about one of my answers. I don't know.
It happens.
Yeah, so sometimes she'll ask you a question like, do you think the internet was good for society, for example, or other key things that electrical power have brought upon us? And then your answer will then, impact where the story might take you next with the different personas that you unlock. And she also helps you she guides you through the different characters that you can play. So she's kind of like, the reason why I brought her into the game was because she solved a lot of problems. One was onboarding. So the premise of the game, for people who haven't played, is that a solar flare has hit Earth and has wiped out all of the power. And this is a disaster which probably wouldn't ever happen to the scale in which it does in the game, but it's not impossible. It's not like zombies or aliens, depending on your view on possibility of aliens.
Neither of those are impossible. Drastically unlikely. But anyway, go ahead.
So the solar flares are something that that happen frequently, but when they happen on a huge scale, they are quite catastrophic. So the last really, really big one was in 1852, I think, which was the Carrington event. And at that point, electrical power wasn't really a huge part of society. But when it did happen, all the telegraph poles caught fire. People could see the northern lights down in Chile. Like, everything just went mental. And there's supposed to be one happening every 200 years. That's kind of like the cycle of these solar flares. So it's always been a really interesting part of the game's history, and that's always been the core of the game, is exploring this idea of this disaster that might actually happen. I can't remember what I was going to say. Mabel has distracted me.
But no, I mean, that was actually the next question I was going to go with as well, was, tell everybody about the game. And so it's almost like I wouldn't call it a straight, like virtual novel type experience, because it's almost like, what's the word for it, where it's like, imitating itself. You're playing a game that's imitating a simulation to train you for real world stuff, and seeing how you react based on the personas. And so that's a question, as we're talking about the game. So there are personas, and you start with 3, and they're very different people, and you unlock more as you find success with those people. As a player, am I supposed to play the game as that person's persona? Because I was just kind of playing it as me and reading the stories.
That's quite interesting, because when I was making it, I never thought that people would put that much thought into that side of things. But at all the events I've done, like EGX and Insomnia and RTX, that's always been a lot of people that are like gamers question. It's like, do I pretend to be Harry or do I be me? And I think that there is no answer to that, and it just depends how you want to play. I don't think you could ever escape not being you in some way.
There are people, and I've always, and I've been, back in my D&D days, which are actually still my D&D days, that's always the problem I've had. It's like, I suck at role playing. I play the same character day in and day out. And so I'm like always trying, but there are people who can absolutely get into a character. I mean, Indy does it on his mainstream, and they can react to things in the world or, in these events like that person does, which is why I thought the personas were so interesting, because you give the character, you're like, okay, he's this much altruistic and this much brave and this. So you have the tools as a player to sit down and say, okay, here's how I would attack this situation, but here's how Harry or, whoever, whichever persona I'm playing right now would attack the situation. And I think that's something that's really cool. You don't see a lot of that in narrative games. They're usually just basically making the assumption that you are you, and you're going to go through it like that.
I mean, I guess when I was designing it, the idea wasn't, is someone going to role play this, but are they going to experience some level of empathy or seeing something from a different point of view that they normally would? So if you're playing the Muslim character or you're playing the banker character, who both experience the same situation. I mean, everyone's in the same situation, but they experience the same type of situation, which is a plane crashing into a building. How do those two different people react, and how do people react to them? So that kind of, whether you're playing it as yourself, I don't think you can ever escape knowing what it might feel like to be that person in that situation based on how other people interact with you. And you can obviously respond to those reactions negatively or positively, or aggressively, or you can run away, but you get to be in that person's shoes. And that's always been why I wanted to make it in this way, that just put people in different people's shoes in different situations and see how they'd handle it.
So who were your influences, when it comes to the narrative style and the writing and, the game design style? Were there other games you had read or movies that you had watched or television shows or novels? What, where did you draw your influences from and, leading into and through creating the game?
So the first version of the game was very much inspired by 80 Days, which is, one of our favorite games. It's really, it's beautifully written, and it's such a high quality game. And the guys at Inkle have always been really supportive and really helpful. And in fact, we use their engine, the Ink engine, in the narrative. So the way that the narratives are written is in this software called Inky, which they developed, which is a sort of markup language for narrative. So it's a bit like Twine. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a more kind of advanced version of that, where you can use logic and different sort of Cody-esque things. So they've been a huge part of the development, I guess, both emotionally and technically. The 2 dots, I've always really loved that, even though I didn't end up making anything that resembled it at all. That I've always really just admired the simplicity of that game and its design. So the third version of the game, as is now, Lifeline, I really tried to look at that for inspiration in its simplicity and the way that it doesn't require any visuals. It's all done on the sound and the text. And some of the more positive reviews of Powerless have always commented on those 2 things, on how it doesn't require, flashy graphics or anything advanced like that. All of the visuals happen in your head and in your imagination, which is really cool, because I think games don't have to be, as Marker said, dopamine hitting, in-app purchasing, awful devil games. They can be things where people think, and they make people think and get to experience different stuff, and that's why the Persona thing is such a big part of it, because you get to be different people, not just axe wielding hero white men. You get to be lots of different characters, male and female, different backgrounds and different religions. This War of Mine, you mentioned that. I really love that game. Trying to think of more things.
No, I mean, that's awesome. And you actually answered a question in there that I forgot to ask from, from Oliver, who asked, what engines, did you use, to create it? So with this one, was it all done in Inky, or is it like Inky overlaid with Unity? Or I'm not the technical person, that's why I'm asking.
Ink with Unity. So there's a Unity plugin for Ink, which brings in the code, the JSON files basically into a format that Unity can work with, and then the UI and the UX is all done in Unity. And sound was done. My boyfriend did the sound. I don't know what he used. But,
so how big, this time around for Powerless, how big was the team, and how many of those were, I guess you're like a lot of studios, everybody is remote, but how many folks were on it, we'll say full time, and how many were, on it just for very segmented parts of it?
I was the only full-time person.
And so how many other folks were there?
So Ryan, who was the other founder, was obviously involved emotionally along the way, but wasn't contributing in terms of like hard, physical work, because he was running the other company, which as soon as I left became like a massive success. So he's been literally all over the world, like directing, doing loads of stuff. So he was busy on that. And then the artist. So this is a bit of a funny story. So when I quit my day job with Ryan to do the game by myself, I ended up having a pretty just a bit of a rough time in London. So I decided to go back to Canada because I really liked it there. So I went there and I was staying with some good friends of mine, and one of my old teachers, who had been one of the writers on the game Lost, and also What's the one with the blue people?
Avatar.
Yeah, he'd been one of the writers in those games. So I went to talk to him because he's the only person I know that was like a professional games writer, and he was working at Capcom. And I went there, and they were having their Halloween party, and he said, "Oh, come in fancy dress," and I figured that was like a hilarious, hilarious joke. And I was like, A, I'm British, just don't do that kind of thing. And also, I did not come prepared for fancy dress on this sort of trip abroad. So I just turned up in my normal clothes, but everybody there was dressed up in the most like elaborate costumes, like Khaleesi, and they were rock stars, and there were all these different video game characters. And I was feeling quite put out by this because everyone was very much into this party mode. And my teacher was being a British rock star, and he did not break character once. This whole like Halloween party, like he remained with his sort of British drug addict, leather trousers, fake wig character the whole time. So we didn't actually get to talk at all because he was like just refused to come out of this character. So I ended up talking to this other guy called Jude, who was one of the art directors there, and he told me about his nephew, who was an artist. And when I hear nephew, I think 7, 8 years old. You just don't think of nephews as being adults. I don't know why. But he showed me his work, and this guy was incredible, and he does all of the concept art for Lucasfilms. And I was like, there's no way he'd ever want to help me with my game. Like, that's not going to happen. But somehow he gave me his number, and I took him out for lunch, and I said, would you like to help me do some artwork for the game? At which point we were in version 2 of the game, so it was a lot more like scenery-based stuff. And he was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. It'd be really great. And I was like, look, I'll find the money to pay you. It won't be as much as Lucasfilms, or LucasArts, but I'll do my best. And we made an agreement, and we had a plan, and we had the schedule, and it was all going to work out fine. And then the new Star Wars film came out, the one, bugger, what's it called? The one with Han Solo being not
Force Awakens.
Ford.
Oh, the Solo movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he was asked to do some work for that, and he was like, I just can't do it. And this was around the time where we realized that version 2 wasn't going to work because we didn't have anyone to do any artwork, and it was kind of heavily based on that 2 dot style map artwork thing. So we're like, we've got no artist, he's too busy, this is never going to work. And then he messaged me, I think in March, and was like, look, I can do some stuff. It won't be much, but I can do it. And then he ended up doing the character design work that you see in the game currently, which is why they look really awesome. And I certainly did not do those. So he did those with like a crate of Red Bull over a pretty short period of time, based on pictures of people that I knew and other people that I sent him references for. So he worked for a very short period of time, but like definitely smashed it out of the park and made the game on a whole other level. I think if it didn't have those characters, it would have been a much less impressive game, if it is impressive to anyone. So he did that. On the original version of the game, we had a guy that did sound, Tom, and he did some of the score, but he kind of finished when we first started off the game. But the game was very different, and the sound didn't really fit. So my boyfriend, who was having to watch me work on the game endlessly, decided to help, and he did all the sound effects, which are awesome. Made the game, I think, really compelling and immersive. But he wasn't a full-time employee, he was a full-time boyfriend who I think pitied me having no help. And then Grant, so the original coder who worked on the game, he already had another job, but he wanted to see the game released, so he agreed to help do bits that I couldn't do myself, and to help, do some of the back end stuff and make that all work nicely. But yeah, the only person that was full time was me, in the short answer to that question.
So there's a pilot in the game. Is that you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I actually asked Shane, can I share his link on?
Yes, absolutely. Go right ahead.
I also want to.
Yeah. Any other links you want to share? Share away, please. Type it right into the Twitch chat.
Okay.
Does it make it more difficult?
let me find out. This. I'm going to share his Instagram because I don't know how to do this, but he is an incredible artist and he does all this really amazing. But yeah, he did the artwork for the game. And I haven't actually been able to speak to him since it came out. I really want to know what he thinks. Because it'll be really interesting to hear from him because I haven't heard. Yes, Tara is me. But I actually asked Shane when he finished if he would do one that actually looked like me, so I could have it like to show my kids and stuff. So maybe that character will get added in soon.
Later on.
That is my plan. So there's another 4 characters that I've got planned out that I'm going to add in. So, but not with in-app purchases. So, Marker Makey can be
no in-app purchases, and that's from a business point of view, that's still a point of debate. You get a lot of traction from fans and a lot more word of mouth by just simply continually updating the game with new content, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then some people want to charge for everything. It just, there's not a right or wrong answer. People are going to like it or hate it either way. So
can we ask Hairy Cabbage about his comment?
Oh, why we're bringing up white men, Hairy Cabbage?
It was because you had said, what did you say? I don't even.
All the game heroes were white men, which isn't completely off. A lot of them.
Yeah, you were saying
still
not Muslim.
Game.
You could say you were being something else, and
I mean, it was also a comment to myself because the first time I made the game, first two times I made the game, the main character was a white man because that just became the default thing, and it was like the most relatable, it's the biggest audience, etc. And I was like, that's just bollocks, and I want to make a game that reflects, well, my own gender for a start, and also the wide diversity of people that are in London. The game is set in London, and I wanted it to feel London-y, and we are a diverse city, so it needs to have diverse people. It would be bizarre. It would be so bizarre if all the personas were like called Dave, or any other name.
Bob.
So it's not Mr. Hairy Cabbage. It's not an attempt to be overly politically correct or anything like that. It's just.
But if we can get the game trending on Reddit, we can certainly make that make that happen and boost sales.
And I want to know exactly what the hell a hairy cabbage is. I mean, thank you so much for the follow. Thanks.
Thanks for the follow, Alamo. So all right. I lost my notes as usual. So
you want me to read some notes?
No, I've got. I'm good. I've got like 14 different pages up on my screens right now, so I'm in my usual ADD world. So, how did you decide on? We've covered how you decided on the genre, which was my original question, but that's been cool. So, how did you come about deciding I'm going to put this on iOS first?
I have an iPhone.
That's a good reason.
I mean, having to buy another device during this hard time of poverty and failure is just not really an option. Like most Android devices, I literally don't even know how to use them. I have one, which I borrowed.
Yeah, some big decisions are made because of simple reasons.
Seriously, convenience.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry there's not a cooler answer to that.
If I were to make a mobile game, it would be on Android because I have an Android phone. That would be the very first thing. I probably wouldn't even consider doing it on iOS simply because of that. So that makes sense.
Yep, there's no right or wrong answer.
And I just I know how it works. So that was it. But I'm trying to do it on Android. And back to the early question about whether it could be free to play or just deal with the fact. So I was talking to one of the guys from Inkle who made 80 Days, and I asked their opinion on it because I know they released the game on both platforms at the same price. It's the same game as far as I'm aware. And one of them said, look, it's pirates are going to pirate. You can't do anything about it. As you said, if people pirate it, I guess it shows that they like the game. And just you have to just deal with that. Or the other option is to do ads, but I personally hate ads, and I don't even see how that would in any way monetize. I don't think we'd have enough volume for that to be a good monetization strategy. I think you need like thousands and thousands, millions and millions. I don't think we'd ever move that much volume. And the other option is to do in-app purchases where there's some kind of paywall. So you get, you unlock one character and then you have to pay to unlock other characters and levels. And I could see how that might work, but the game isn't designed in that way from a kind of UX point of view. So the things that you unlock are based on your choices. They're not based on how much money you have. And that would, I feel like, be really... It just really doesn't fit with the vibe of the game. And I don't know. If Maud's like, you can play more if you give me some money, just seems really cold. Even though she's a robot. Yeah.
So, I mean, and that brings up there are various ways now, and we've talked about some of the guests that we've had on, to monetize your game. So we know the standard, okay, it's either a premium game or it's a free-to-play game. If it's a free-to-play game, you're either buying in-app purchases that are consumable, or you're buying, downloadable content packs, or you are watching ads. Have you looked at doing something along the lines of Patreon to basically bring in revenue and reward players, but you're not, it's all voluntary, basically?
No. But now, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Right,
once again, there's no right or wrong answer. We're in an industry, at a time in this industry where there's a lot of different ways that you can actually, monetize your game. The guys that do, now this is an extreme example, but the guys that do Dwarf Fortress, that's how the whole thing is financed, is through Patreons, and people come in and you basically give them extra. It's almost like a Kickstarter, but it's ongoing. It's not
I think I actually have one of those. I think I subscribe to Inkle because they have one, because they do this open source software.
Yeah.
Which I've also used loads, so I subscribe to that.
And so there are games that, I mean, that's a mechanism that you can use to continue to add content, yet reward those players that want to, give a little more. So,
and also your hardcore followers are there.
Yeah.
Your hardcore fans.
12 of them.
Yeah.
Hey, 12 of them need support. That's 12 more than a lot of games have.
There might be more than 12. I don't know how you know. I'm trying to, obviously the game came out maybe a month ago now. And I just did loads of events back to back. Like every weekend I was at some expo showing the game, which was a really good experience to actually see people play it. But I haven't really had time to kind of analyze the analytics behind the game and the App Store analytics that they provide to find out who's playing, like how long are they playing, where do they live,
what's their address, where can we find them.
I think if you had your own Twitch channel where you were like maybe playing games but also working on your game and showing that progress, I bet you would get a lot of fans.
I'm very new to this Twitch thing, and I don't know if anyone would ever want to watch me badly play games.
Well, you never know until you try.
But exactly, and especially as you're going and you're doing, I mean, I'm not going to lie, making it as a new streamer when you're just playing games is an uphill battle every way you look at it. But we started this channel. Obviously, Indy's been doing this for a long time, which is the reason I came to him and went, I have this idea. Can you help me? And I didn't know if anybody would watch ours or not, but now we have, 300 and some followers, which is about 350 more than I ever thought we'd have. And, because you're doing something different. And
Yeah.
so, Heffu just, made a good comment about a lot of smaller creators and communities seem to have good success with ongoing support like Patreon, especially if you put yourself out there as a creator that people want to follow from game to game, regardless of genre. So we had the guys, thank you, Mavis, for that update. All right, listen, we need 24 more followers today so we can hit a nice round number at 400.
I just can't believe we have that many. That's like,
thanks, Andy.
That is crazy. No, that's a crazy good number. That's awesome. I mean, haven't you ever heard of what is it called? The 1,000 hardcore fan rule. If you have 1,000 hardcore fans and each of them gives you $5 a month, you've made it, right? Isn't that
That's true.
some kind of thing?
All right,
Anyway.
We don't have 1,000 yet, so I need every one of our followers to give us $15 a month. All right, so we're gonna make this work one way or another. But we had the Tricet brothers on here a few weeks ago, and that's what they've been making games, and it's like 2 of them with some contractors that help them out. They have a ridiculous fanatical community of support. Did I say Trey?
Tricet brothers.
I'm from the South. Give me a
Tricet.
little bit of a break.
Hey, thank you so much for the host, Mavis Games, and thank you guys for the follows too. That's been popping in.
So they've been making these games over the years, and they have a Patreon, society, whatever you call it, Patreon page, as a way to keep people engaged from game to game to game. So it's awesome. I've been doing this for 20 years. And when I started doing this 20 years ago, your only options for releasing a game were pay for it all yourself and find a publisher, or pay for some of it and find a publisher. And so the ability to go in and just create something and launch it, on your own, that didn't even exist. And so now not only are we seeing that, but we're seeing a lot of different, very interesting models coming about to actually pay for these things. I mean, Twitch followers, I'm proud to say we make like I think $7 a month on this Twitch channel, but
but the goal of this channel, to be fair, is not to make money.
It's not to make money.
It's to share knowledge, have fun, and
educate. So
and hang out and drink beer for Jay. How come you don't have your beer yet, Jay? That's what I want to know.
Because I have to walk way over there to get it, and I'm still working on my water and coffee from this morning. So I haven't gotten up to go tap the keg yet. So, but yeah, I mean, Lauren, all of that is a big round way of saying there's a lot of different ways that you can make money in this stuff. And I shared before we came online. Hannah, who was on from Fail Better Games a month ago, maybe. I was like, we have another narrative game coming on, and she's from the UK as well. So, obviously, Val, therefore, you two have to know each other because you're
I follow her on. I follow her on Twitter, and I went to an event in January where she gave a talk. Hannah Flynn.
Yes, Hannah, are you here? If you're here, please speak up.
Yeah, no, she. I listened to a talk that she gave in last January, I think, at the Mobile Games Forum. But I think it has a different name now. And I've, always been really interested in her. I don't think we've ever sort of had a conversation. I think I've emailed her a few times.
Well, you can now have a conversation with her on our Discord server because you're both listed as guests of the show.
Cool.
The elite royalty. So anyway, yeah, I mean, she was talking about how, passionate their fan base was. And so there's a lot of, really cool ways that you can continue to subsidize it because we all know that games don't always make a ton of money. All right, so I'm going to shift gears here completely. The game is about a gigantic solar flare hitting and the power grid basically goes to shit.
Yeah.
And so it's very survival. I don't know if the survival of the prepper world, I haven't had real cable in years, so I don't watch Doomsday Preppers anymore. If that is still like as fervent as it used to be. But you mentioned in an interview that you've got your backpack and you've always got something to be ready. So what do you have in the backpack? If the solar flare cuts my voice off like right now because we get taken out, what do you have in your bag that you are ready for, that you carry every day?
I don't know whether it would help in that situation, but the things that I have in my bag or usually have is, so I have this thing called a Pocket Ninja.
That sounds very useful.
Mm.
Probably not what I'm thinking, but that could be awesome.
It's a credit card sized object, and it's got different tools all around the edge. So one is a knife, and then there's a kind of a little, it's a bit like a Swiss Army knife, but it looks more aggressive, and it's in a little tiny square. So I always have that on me. I always have a Sharpie because you can make a Sharpie into a really long-lasting candle. So if you just set it on its butt, and you light the top because of the whatever the delicious chemicals they put in that thing, it will burn for a really long time. So you can have a kind of a candle, which is really useful. What else do
You
I
can
have?
also write your name on your arm, so if something happens to you, people will know who you are.
Yeah, and if you need to like leave a message on a wall and you don't want to use your own blood, that's kind of useful. And also for labeling bottles, because I think the labeling of bottles will become a crucial part of any apocalypse, because you don't want to be sharing it with someone that's got
You don't want to mix up your
Plague.
tea bottle with your water bottle.
exactly. And what else is in my bag? Right now there's other dog food. That's not useful.
It's useful for Mabel.
Yes. Like little pocket tool things. I've got this pen, which is on one side it's a pen, on the other side it's a screwdriver. That's always in my bag. Medicine. I've always got a load of medicines in my bag. I have a little bag, like a little zip baggie. It's full of drugs.
We actually have one of those too. All of like the unused prescriptions and stuff. We have a pharmacy. I'm not telling you guys where we live, because if something happens, we have a lot of
we know where to go to get the drugs.
yeah, we know where to go. There's a lot of oxycodone, and then I believe there's also a lot of whatever, sulfa drugs or whatever.
Which, to be fair, again, is very useful in an apocalypse, not only for using, but for bartering.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, trade.
Exactly.
I have a survival whistle, which I used to have on a chain around my neck, but I know it's not.
All right, so wait, how is a survival whistle different than a regular whistle?
It's really fucking loud. That's the difference. It's not like, hey, come
Noted
in.
now
It's
as
not like-
things not to buy my son. There we go. All right.
Canned pet food is FDA approved for human consumption in the case of emergency.
You ever tried it? Am I the only one that's done that?
I've tried it.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
I've
dry.
I've eaten a dog treat because my best friend has a dog, and she bought these really expensive like organic coconut mango treats.
Yes, that's
Not
They
me. I
smell
just say
so
like
good.
kibble or something.
no. I mean, it was the same thing. It's like, you know, somebody gave us these like really high end homemade artisanal dog treats that smelled fantastic. They didn't taste that great though. It was just like,
Yeah.
Oh, did I lose?
Oh.
There we go.
wait, hold on.
No, we're good. That was a little flash there. It was a solar flare.
Right. Now I gotta go find my pocket ninja. Yeah,
there was a thing I saw on do you guys have Instagram? Not
Yeah.
like for this channel. You know, you know those things. Those ads that are like, shop now for this random crap that they assume you want because of things that you've looked at.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had an ad the other day, and it was like the best thing I've ever seen. So it was like this little tube with a metal rod in it, and it's like an everlasting match, so you can always light it. I think it said it had like 100,000 goes in it.
Oh wow.
What?
Yeah, I want that for my bag.
I like
See,
the water bottle that you like. They show people like dipping this brown goopy freaking water and then pouring it out and it's clear. I want one of those things.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds really cool. At all the events I did, I gave out these survival bracelets, which everyone loved. They were like made of paracord.
No. Somebody gave me one at some point, and it's actually hanging from the rear view mirror in my truck. You know, in the event that I need it. Of course, the
Okay.
you know, it's.
I thought you were gonna say something really bad then, like, you know.
No.
He got excited. He's super excited about that, man.
I know that it is a completely wasted endeavor, though, because it is hanging behind the rearview mirror. So I never really remember it's there unless I'm walking towards the front of the truck. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got the paracord bracelet over there. So, yes.
I love them. Yeah. So I gave out these ones that had a little fire starter in the clippy bit,
Ooh.
and then it had a whistle, a very small, not survival whistle, more like if you wanted to make a small song kind of whistle.
No, see, I love the idea of a survival whistle because I know exactly what I'm going to get my brother's children for Christmas now.
There's a thing actually that I wanted to buy that I've not bought yet because I know that it's too extreme, but I do want it. It's this little thing. I think it was like £20 on Amazon, and it's like I don't know what you call it. It's like a smash anything hammer, essentially. So if you're in a car crash or
Yes.
and it just breaks the thing, or if you need to cut your seatbelt, or in my flat, all of the front door and the back door are mainly glass, and you have to use a key to unlock them. So if you were trying to escape in some situation, you didn't have the key, you'd be fucked basically. So I want this little smashy hammer.
I think it has like ceramic on it or something. Just like, you know how they say you can take a spark plug and then hit it with the ceramic on glass and it will bust glass, no problem.
Ooh.
I had one of those at some point in time, and it may be in my truck. I have no idea.
Haven't had to bust any windows lately.
I know, really. That's like most of my, survival first aid crap. It's like I put it together and I get so excited, I stick it somewhere, and 4 years later, I have no idea what I did with it.
Everyone's in here like, this is supposed to be about video games. What the fuck?
Why
are we
is this
talking
on the
about
game
right
development? We're talking real world chips.
I have a Jeep, and in the back is filled with lots of survival stuff.
See, so
like a
in
Jeep
case of emergency,
or a Jeep.
all we have to do is
it's a '96 Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, nice.
Wow. The did it have the nice chrome mirrors on it?
It doesn't have anything
stainless-
nice now.
Well, I mean, that was like one of my first cars, and it had like the stainless steel chrome, not plastic type rear view mirrors, and I hit a guy with it. But that's beside the point. Wasn't intentional, but
Truth or
I knew
dare?
it had to hurt. Yeah. All right. So, but as we reroute this back to game development, you've come into this industry at a later stage of your life than a lot of people do, and so you've had plenty of experiences before getting here. And we've gone through some of the struggles that you had with the studio. What has been the biggest surprise for you, good or bad, since starting on this journey in the development world?
Oh my God. Did you read that? If a vampire bites, sorry to totally derail, but if a vampire bites a zombie, which one changes?
Oh my God. That is
fucking deep.
That's a good question. Screw my question.
The vampire bites us.
Well, wouldn't the zombie change because the vampire bit them?
Wait, the zombie would have to drink the vampire blood, right?
But no,
The
because
vampire,
if a vampire
the vampire's
bites
biting
somebody,
the zombie.
if a vampire bites somebody, they change if they don't die. But I guess the zombie's already dead, so. But a zombie ends up walking around.
If a vampire just drinks someone's blood, they might just die. But if they get the zombie to drink their blood, then they would change. Then the zombie would change. But that's not the question, right?
If a vampire bites a zombie, which one changes?
I think the only one that would change is neither. I don't think any would change.
So the vampire would be a vampire zombie. Probably not because it's the vampires are mortal. It probably wouldn't go stupid zombie, but the zombie would become a vampire also, but it would still be a stupid zombie.
So it'd be a really stupid.
Yeah, it'd
vampire.
be like a stupid vampire, and then the zombie would turn into a zombie vampire.
I think the vampire would bite the zombie, drink some blood, and be like, meh, not nice. Do they even have blood? Do they even have?
It depends on how long they've been dead.
It depends on what movie you watch.
That's true.
True.
That's true too.
That's true. I think if the vampire just bites the zombie and does not get the zombie to feed from him, the zombie would not change. But I think if the vampire drank enough zombie blood, it would become a zombie-like vampire. And maybe would become then addicted to the zombie blood and would have to seek more.
Oh, that's even a whole nother level right there.
Well, then wouldn't the vampire not be biting the zombie after we'll give them the first bite. Maybe you don't know what a zombie is, but if they bite the zombie and they realize, okay, this is old skunky blood, they wouldn't continue biting zombies.
Yeah, and also biting doesn't imply sucking.
That's true.
So, just
So this is way more tangent than we even usually get on. It's awesome.
Well, okay, but what if you put a werewolf on the moon? Yeah.
It would be a werewolf constantly, and it wouldn't change back to a human.
What if it's on the dark side of the moon?
That's where the Transformers are.
Maybe it would be a more musical werewolf.
It would turn into a bunch of rainbows and go right through.
Is there anybody in there? Yeah.
All right. So actually, good segue.
What was
you went to EGS? You went to EGX last week.
Yes.
And your comment to me,
What you're gonna say out loud?
No, I won't say you. I took from your comment that one, it was the first industry event you'd ever been to, at least our industry.
No.
It's not. Okay.
No, it was the last.
Oh, it was the last. Was it bad?
It wasn't bad. So the first one I went to was this tiny one in Norwich, which was literally next to a small shopping mall outside by a library, and it was mainly for kids, and it was free. And I had just me, and I think I had some sweets to lure the children in, and my iPad. Well, I didn't have like T-shirts or anything cool to give away. I literally just had, a beta version of the game, and that was fun. I was like, okay, people played the game, they didn't hate it, people spoke to me, it was cool. Maybe like 30 people played it. The next one I did was at launch, which was Insomnia, which is a big event here. I don't know if there's any kind of American version, but that was like a big pop-up event with these guys were there, and there was a Fortnite stand, and Lara Croft and the new Spider-Man, all this stuff was there. It was huge, loads of people. And that was a 4-day event during when we launched, and that was quite tough. It was very tiring, really, really, really tiring. But most people had Android phones for the first 2 days, but they enjoyed playing it, and there was lots of feedback, and like met loads of really cool people of all different ages, and that was great. The second one we did was RTX, which was run by the guys who do Rooster Teeth, the YouTube channel. That was really odd because it wasn't like a normal event. It was like those guys were like on stage talking, usual kind of nonsense, and playing some games. And then
the nonsense that I end up doing a lot, getting on stage and talking to people. Yes.
Yeah. And then they had some indie games there, which I was part of, but there were a lot of people there in cosplay. It seemed much more of a cosplay event around the characters created by Rooster Teeth, with some things where you could buy. But it was in this huge venue, but the event only filled half of it, so it felt really strange. But that was only 2 days. And then EGX was even bigger than all of them put together, but it seemed to have a lot more industry people who were there to do like industry things, rather than Insomnia, which is customer based, just regular people. So maybe that's what you meant about industry event. Maybe you were right.
Well, I mean, no, we are. There's like an event every weekend somewhere in the world if you want to go to it. It's ridiculous the number of shows that we have, which is a good thing. But it used to be back when I was a kid. When I started, it was like, okay, we went to E3, we went to GDC, we went to ECTS in London, and we went to a show in Cannes called Melia, which is now gone. And so is ECTS, but there's still lots of shows in London. But you have the shows like the one that Rooster Teeth was putting on that are more for the fans than they are for the people like me. Then there is things like EGX where it's a bit for both, or GDC, which is pretty much all professionals, and Gamescom, which is like, if you haven't been to Gamescom, I highly recommend it. It is.
I really want to go.
Oh my God. It is absolutely the biggest show put on worldwide. I mean, I'll say maybe something in China Joy or Tokyo. I'm not counting Asia in this because I've never been to those shows. But, Gamescom is a gigantic business to business conference. At the same time, a gigantic consumer conference is going on. So what was how was it? What was your experience at EGX? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Tell us about how it went.
So at the other events, my boyfriend came with me, and to just literally have someone to talk to, because I was like, no one's going to talk to me probably. It's going to be really dull, and I don't want to do this by myself. So he came along for the other 2 events that I did, which has made it kind of fun. But he had to go to work on this one because it was during a weekday, so I went by myself. And so that kind of, put me. I'm obviously a strong, independent female, blah blah blah. But it's good to have somebody that you can like hang out with when you're sort of standing in front of your thing that you've poured your heart into for years, and people are just like meh and walking past. It is quite hard to do that. And also at this event, there were loads of people that all knew each other, and it felt very cliquey, and it felt like the cool people were all talking to the other cool people, and I was not one of those people. And on the first day I was like, this is awful, this is like just unbearably hard, this is like socially awkward, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know, you have no idea. Like, it's supposed to be the press day, so the idea is to show the game to press people who will then write about the game and help you market it. So you never know like who's important and who's not unimportant, but who's not a press person. Obviously people have badges and they have these little wristbands with different colors and stuff, so you can kind of know, but again you don't really know. And so you don't know who you're supposed to talk to, and there are all these people that are like saying hi to all these people that they know, and these groups form together and they're all chatting and joking and laughing or whatever, and you're like, hi. It was awful. I hated it. So and then like, because that put me in like kind of like a sort of very shy, unpleasant mood. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't just go and talk to people. I don't know who to speak to. I don't have like a wingman. And clearly everyone thinks the game is shit because they're just walking past and they all want to see the big stuff. So day 1 was really hard. Day 2, I was like, I'm gonna try and get my shit together and just speak to people and just be positive and just pretend that I don't feel like crying. And that day did go a bit better, to be honest. And so I just grabbed random people that I saw with the press thing, irrespective of like whether they were writing for a big thing or not. Because I'm like, it doesn't really matter who they are, as long as someone plays the game. That's one more person that hadn't played it yesterday. So, and I met some really nice people and got some nice feedback. But yeah, it didn't seem to be the same level of just like genuinely interested people just coming to play the game. It was like people coming to judge. It felt like being in some kind of competition where people were coming to judge your game, and they were there quite quickly just to have a go, and then they left, and then moved on to the next game that they actually had intended to come to see. That's kind of how EGX felt. But to be fair, not everyone was like that at EGX. So there was this guy who, again, I just went and grabbed him because he had a press thing on, and he is a Twitch streamer. How do I do like a mention of something?
Just type twitch.tv and then put his name in.
Where do I type that?
In the Twitch chat.
Oh. Got it. Twitch.tv/
and then whatever his name is.
I'm going to spell it wrong. Did that work?
Yeah. Captain Skippy.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was playing some of the games, and I just kind of was like, hey, come play my game. And he ended up playing it for like 2 hours because he would not leave until he had completed the whole thing.
Here's a good
and that was amazing because he was like, a genuine person. Obviously, everyone's a genuine person, but he was just really into it and like played it with his friend, and they were competing against each other, and it was so funny just to watch. Just to see people playing, engage with it, because that's really fun. Whereas when someone just comes to like judge your game and ask you questions, it can be a bit miserable. Like there's one person came up to me and he was like, oh, so like where's the dev? And I was like, I made the game, it's my game. And he was like, okay, yeah, but where are the other people that made it? Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's my game. Not in a possessive way, but it was like he was just kind of angling for like, where are the other people? Where are the men, essentially, which I found a bit annoying. And there were a few people whose name I won't mention who work for certain companies whose name I won't mention, who essentially were using the event as some kind of dating thing and sort of, trying to, you know what I'm saying.
I mean, and I've been doing this for in this industry for 2 decades, and I can't speak to other industries, but that's a very real thing, and it's something that everybody talks about. We need to get away from this, but we don't. And you see the stuff, a lot of the, it has been sensationalized, and it gets thrown out there a whole lot. And I think some
I feel
people,
that's why Harry Cabbage is sighing right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's I can understand why people are like, oh, are we talking about this again? But the reality is, it's something that happens. And so I had a situation a few months ago where, I just got like completely dressed down in a meeting. I mean, it was just like, this is not how I'm accustomed to being, talked to. And it's like a general pattern with this person. And so I was speaking to a female friend of mine who's been in the industry, as long as I have. And I was like, just be ready when you talk to this person because, and I go through all the stuff that came from the conversation. And she said something that stuck with me. She said, oh, I'm not worried about it. I've been a woman in this industry for, 25 years, and I'm basically fairly used to being talked to like that. And I was like, oh my God, so that is, you don't realize it. I mean, you really don't. As a guy, it's just like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. They keep complaining about this stuff, but I don't get it. But then, when it happens and you can have it related, you're like, oh shit, okay, this is a real thing. And so, on one side, yeah, you're always going to have, those people who are like, okay, so we're the people that really made the game. But, a lot of what you saw there and what you went through is exactly the same thing that almost every indie, and new studio that goes to a conference goes through. It's because, and someone told me years ago that I had made a career out of telling people that their babies are ugly. And that's basically what you have to do sometimes, when you're doing stuff like I do on the business side. We get when I was working as a publisher, we get, tons and tons of submissions, and you can't take all of them, and some of them aren't good, but you have to learn how to, phrase that and say, listen, I know you've worked on this for 2 years and it is your heart and soul put into it, but it sucks. You can't say it like that. And so, and a lot of people don't have that level of.
To be fair, like most people have been like, really cool about the fact that I'm female, because ultimately it doesn't really make a difference.
It totally makes zero difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game I made is different because of my life and the things I care about and find interesting, not because of a gender situation, although they're obviously intrinsically linked to a degree. So again, I don't know what Harry Cabbage. I don't know why you seem to be.
Oh, because
by this.
No, what had happened is you had made the comment of somebody coming up to you saying, "Where are the men?" And that was why you sighed. Was that
is
people
he sighing
do that?
For me, or
he was sighing for you. He was not. He was not coming at you. He was sighing for you. He was agreeing with that. That is just. I
mean, the annoying thing is, like, other times at different events, people come up to me and they assume that I'm a promo girl because, like, I'm blonde and youngish, and I'm, wearing a t-shirt that says,
youngish.
Well, yeah,
youngish. I'm youngish.
With the Powerless t-shirt or whatever, and that's, but it's usually a nice surprise. Someone's at the door. Can I just one sec?
Sure.
Take the pocket ninja.
Yeah, take the pocket ninja. Don't go without your pocket ninja. All right, so ask the question, Harry. Oh, and Gamer, of course, is in with his 2 cents. He comes for hoping for a date with Jay.
Like aliens. I could hope for a date with Jay. You're going to be sorely disappointed in that, Gamer House, but I'll go ahead and tell you.
Harry Cabbage says, you just said that most of the people don't care that you're a woman, and then
Mabel.
Then you also that a guy was asking where the actual devs are without mentioning gender at all, but you assumed that they were referring to the fact that you are a woman. So with all of that being the case, why do you keep bringing up gender?
Harry Cabbage, in 2 decades of doing this, I can say that 99 times out of 100, when people approach you at a game conference like that, when they say, where are the actual devs, they truly are shocked that, a woman is the one that did the development. I mean, it's a sad reality of the industry. For years, it has been completely and utterly dominated by men. And so that, whether someone says that out of maliciousness or,
ignorance
or whether it was meant to be
you would think that
it still happens
with revolutionary game developers like Jane Jensen. You know what I mean?
I guess the more important question here is, why do you, Harry Cabbage, have an issue with it? Because ultimately this is a conversation about the things that I've been through, so being female is probably going to come up because it has been part of the journey, people kind of being slightly dismissive and whatever. So I'm not sure I didn't bring up gender politics. Like I don't even know really. You're pissing off Mabel. That's what's happening right now.
Now the wiener dog's mad, and everyone.
Well, I would imagine it's because it's a thing. It exists and it's a thing.
Well,
I can give more explicit example of gender politics, but it would actually get some people probably in trouble, and it wouldn't be very nice. I'm not really bringing up the really bad things that have happened to me about in this area. I'm just bringing up the kind of more general day-to-day stuff that happens.
It is. It's an issue. I'm trying to find the stats.
Yeah, I'm not making a sly dig at men. That's silly. I'm not at all. It's not the case.
I'm staring intently at this, trying to figure out where the stats were. But it's getting better.
I've had loads of positive experiences because I'm female, and I think maybe it's quite possible to say the game might not have got where it is if I hadn't been female. Maybe Apple wouldn't have taken such an interest and featured the game if I'd been a guy. And when I do go to events and people are cool with it, not cool with it, like people are interested in the fact that I made the game, they're probably more interested because of them. If anything, positive discrimination has been a really big thing, and that's been really fun and really useful.
I don't think I've ever heard the phrase positive discrimination. That's a new one. Is that an actual phrase? I'm Googling that now. It is an actual. It's a British term. There you go, Lauren. That's why I had never heard that phrase.
I don't know if I'd call it white female privilege either. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you're having a dig at me for no reason. It seems a bit unfair.
All right, Harry Cabbage. That's it. Enough. We're not diving into all of, that's not what this channel is.
No.
All right, so obviously you had a different experience at EGX than you did at the other shows, which makes sense. Now you hear my dog. Makes sense given the fact that, like you said, it's probably your first, and I don't know what the phrase would be, industry show geared more for professionals maybe, and less for the consumers. And you do get those people coming by that are just like, I don't want to play that, and they keep going. And so as a developer, I can see that being, it is disheartening. There's no doubt about it. And I'm one of those people at these shows that do that. There's some certain games that, I'm looking at that I'm like, I tend to look through two different lenses, and one is like would I play that lens, and the other lens is, will that thing make it in the market? And if I don't see something that jumps out on both of them as saying, yes, it will, I walk by. And, sometimes I've had the guilty meetings where I'm like, I just feel bad because I'm like, we're at one of those indie pavilions and there's just like developer. And I'm like talking to this one, and then I skip over somebody and I go talk to the other one, and I'm like, I don't look like a giant dick. Okay, now I'm going to go talk to this one, because I feel like I should. But you do have to have very thick skin, and it's something that developers need to be aware of when they go to different types of shows. Is like different types of shows have different types of audiences and demographics there, and so you're going to get a different reaction to the game. And so it's once again, it's like, whether you realize it or not, this is something that everybody has to go through and everybody has to deal with. And, it's just part of getting out there and doing it. I think I'm like maybe 25% of the way. Mabel is like 6% of the way.
Yeah, that's
Mabel
okay. We have a.
Hey, little buddy, where's your
We
ball?
all have dogs, and they all bark during the stream, so you're fine.
And mine snores during the stream.
The last stream we had, the last 20 minutes was in the background. It was awesome.
You know, I think I find it easy to take criticism in person. So when people have come up to me at events and been like, you know, this bit didn't really work for me, or I've had a really good Mabel, not happy. Mabel, come here. Okay, you can come on my lap. It's fine. Let me try and catch the little monkey. When people have said stuff like that, I think it's fine because they are aware that they're talking to another human being and they've physically played the game, and I've seen what they've done and what didn't work. What I haven't been able to do well with is anonymous feedback or angry emails that people have sent me.
This game is shit. Thanks for the
reviews.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I don't understand. Like, okay, I want to help figure out what you didn't enjoy, or I want to fix it. But if it's just like rage and it's just angry stuff without a human, I find that hard to take because your mind just imagines the worst. So that's probably what I haven't figured out yet. But I think stuff at events is fine when someone talks to you. But if someone walks past and you hear them talking to their friend like that looks shit, then that's more painful. But if they say it to your face, I can probably deal with that more.
And this is a Penny Arcade cartoon from 14 years ago, and it still completely holds true across the board. The internet fuckwad theory, and it is absolutely, to this day, it's like it's a real thing. And so you do get people, it's harder to tell somebody in person that you don't like their game, but you feel you feel a deeper need to explain why than you do when you're just on the internet and you're like, oh my god, this game sucks, and that's it. It's like you don't know where that came from, why that person said that. And it's always my recommendation to all, especially first-time developers, is for God's sakes, don't read the reviews.
I read everyone and I reply to every single one.
That is commendable. I think the first game that was released that I had a very deep, part in creating, I think I probably read like 3 or 4 of the reviews and I went, these people suck. They always just know. I hate it. It can be absolutely disheartening. And I'm one of those that if you didn't like it, that's fine, but tell me why, type things.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, I like the 3-star, even the 2-star reviews where they're like, I didn't like this because this thing broke. And then I'm like, cool, send me an email of where it broke and I'll fix it. Or I'm actually, not me, but someone said to me, I'm actually a surgeon, and what we would say in this situation is blah, 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 blah. And that's awesome. Like, you need that stuff. But when it's just like a tirade of like bile, and it's just like, I've personally offended them with my game, then that's more difficult to deal with.
That just means that when you personally offended people and they're that upset over it, that just means that you have officially made it.
But realistically, that means you have had an imprint on their. God, my brain is like shot. Maybe I do need to go get a beer. You have made. You've had an effect on them.
I don't know. I think people just like.
Well, yeah, there are the people that are just going to shit on it just to shit on it. But there is. If someone has actually played it, because these are the reviews on Steam that I get just like kicks out of. It's like they give a game 1 star and they have all these reasons why they don't hate it, and you look at it and it's like hours played 284. It's like you didn't hate it that bad, So there are, you've made a connection with someone. Now, granted, it ended up being a negative connection, but you did make a connection with someone, through the game, and so that's not.
Yeah.
It's the people that don't ever try it and they're like, well, it looks like it sucks. It's like, well, you might want to try it. Those are the people that I can't deal with. I'm like, no, just no. Yeah, I agree, telling you. They are, like you're seeing in Rome 2 right now. But it is It's like I saw one of the. I'm always, whenever I look at games, I'm always interested in seeing why it got a 5-star or why it got a 1-star. And I was like, there's a 1-star review on your iOS page, and it's because the person's pre-order didn't work. And I'm like,
yeah, I got one.
That's not something, all right. So even if you had a little hiccup day one,
I had a massive one. Apple released the wrong version of the game like 24 hours early. It was awful.
Well, that's it's even more frustrating when you can't control it at all.
No, but so people that had pre-ordered and had auto install set up or whatever got a build from like 2 months ago that was buggy as hell and full of spelling mistakes, and so everyone was like, it doesn't work. So that was really stressful, and people did leave some negative reviews after that, but most people kind of got over that. And I think it definitely is the negative. It's the minority, it's not the majority. So
it just frustrates me when it's like, I'm giving this a 1-star review because something didn't work right day one, and
my phone doesn't work.
You fix it, and because you said right underneath it, you told them exactly what happened, and it should be fixed. But they left the damn review, and it's like, have the common decency to go back and. I'm going to get on a soapbox here, and I think I might have done this on Wednesday, but I'm going to do it again because it really, really, really pisses me off. People don't have the common courtesy as gamers to go back, and they don't realize that behind that screen is a real person just like them, And so I was flipping through Twitter the other night after Telltale had their, announced their massive layoff, and it's like 75-80% of the comments from fans were, well, this is bullshit. Y'all need to finish the Walking Dead storyline. I have to know what happens to Clementine. It's like, are you shitting me? 250 people just got fired on a Friday that are going to have insurance for a week, no severance, and you're worried about the last episode of your damn game. It's like, that's not the story here.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not just. I was so pissed off that night reading Twitter, and I knew better than to read Twitter in the first place, but I did it anyway.
I think this question here about should platforms enable sellers to mute bad reviews they've addressed, assuming it's possible to do responsibly. I think that's a really interesting point, because sometimes people leave reviews which are like, I genuinely dislike this game at the core level, it's just a shit game. That's just a review, like you can't really address that. It's like, okay, I can't change the entire game. But if it's like, I'm leaving a 1-star review because these specific things, and then those specific things are fixed, then you should be able to remove those reviews, I think. Or at least have something which is like, this has now been addressed, like tick next to it or something like that.
Well, and I think that's why because for a long time Apple wouldn't let you reply to it, and Amazon wouldn't let you reply to it on that. But
the thing is the person can't reply back. Like it's like a one-way conversation, isn't it?
It is.
They write something and then you respond, and they can't say.
They don't do anything.
To your response, or they can't be like, "Oh, okay, you fixed my problem," or you've made
exactly.
That
They should go back and fix it. Change the review. Maybe they're not going to give it 5 stars. Maybe now that's working, they didn't really like it. But because it hurts the teams, because when someone pulls up this game, the first thing that they look at is the review score, not why it has the review score, but and it's absolutely needlessly damaging, for this stuff. And so
I don't know how many people really look at reviews and take them that seriously. I don't know how much that matters.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's my point. They just look at the star rating or the score rating, or whatever. They don't dive into it much further. And so it's just one of those. It's another aspect of this industry that's frustrating. And it's not just our industry. I mean, obviously on Amazon, it's every freaking industry. But it's a hot point for me this week because I do get angry that a lot of consumers and a lot of gamers, they don't realize that there are real people doing this. To them, it's just like X company spit out this game, and I can shit on it all I want because it doesn't have an effect on people. But
I think I
it
find
does.
reviews that seem to insist on a refund, which I don't even know how you would do that through Apple. I don't know how that works, but they insist on a refund. It just feels like when people in restaurants complain about something really menial because they want to get money off the bill, not because they actually were that fussed by the issue. They're just using it as an excuse to try and get the thing for free or whatever. And, and in the process hurt loads of people's feelings. It just seems like a really dick thing to do.
Hence the internet fuckwad theory from Penny Arcade.
Exactly. I think little one might need to go for walkies.
Well, we're like way past what we normally go anyway. So
yeah, we're like almost an hour past.
Yes, because this is.
She's doing the little wiggle bum thing.
Well, all right. Well, we will wrap this up and let Maud go pee. Thank you so much, Lark. This is awesome show, and we want you to keep doing what you're doing, and so you can come back on later and tell us how things have gone, exponentially well since you were on our show.
Android, maybe we can do that.
Yeah. All right. So you're on our Discord server, so we can hit you. The game's called Powerless Gamer Husband. If you would show up on time for our streams,
then you would know all this information.
Yes.
Jeez.
You're absolutely ruining it for everyone, Gamer Husband.
Post that link, Jay.
And to be clear, the game's character is called Maud. The dog is called Mabel.
That's
Mabel.
right. I got them backwards. All right, Laura, we'll let you go. I need to do some housekeeping and give away the copies of your game.
Oh, excellent. Cool.
But we won't further hinder Mabel. I'm gonna call her Mabel. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work. And we'll be in touch. And feel free to join us whenever we're on here.
So are we just gonna stay live so we can give away the keys?
Yeah, we gotta give away, but I don't want to. I don't want Lauren to have to clean up a puddle out of her floor.
All right.
By the way,
bye. Thank you.
Do I have to press anything?
No.
Bye.
No, not really.
You can leave
Thanks,
Discord.
Lauren.
You can.
Okay. All right. See you guys. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Take care.